20 seconds away from overtime. Puck is shot in on goal, and Joseph cleared it away with a stick. Fisher tried to center. Hossa was open in front. Roberts is up with 10 seconds left to play in regulation. He had to turn back. Roberts fired a long pass in. They get over the line. There's going to be a chance for a shot. Roberts in, and he fanned on it. There is the horn to end the third period. Off the heel of a stick, Roberts with that last chance for a shot on goal, and couldn't make it. Well, it comes the time now where the pressure is on everybody, on this big crowd, on the two goalies, Joseph and Moline, in a dandy tonight, and of course, everybody who's on the shift. And I suppose you can include the officials with that too.
Absolutely.
We've got McCreary and Van Massenhoven, the two referees who will watch this. Ottawa is a goal away from taking a commanding lead in this series, winning 5-0 game one. And here tonight, getting a tying goal in the third period to send us to overtime.
It is Sportsfeld story time. We are heading in to overtime in the Maple Leafs Ottawa Senators 2002 playoffs, Game 2. It's a triple overtime classic. It is the Battle of Ontario. In the series, it's 1-0 Senators. They had won. Game 1, 5-0. We just looked back at what this time was like for the Battle of Ontario, and really a hatred on both sides. Lots of guys on each team that the other team hated a lot. We talked about how much everybody hated Darcy Tucker, how much Maple Leafs fans, I think I hated Chris Neal, I hated Daniel Alfredsson, I hated Wade Redden. There were a lot of guys in the Senators I hated a lot.
Yeah, I hated the whole this because, again, like I said in our first episode, I was 13, which is like prime genuinely hate athletes time. Not in like kind of the fun, like, oh, Ben Simmons is a coward way. It was like, especially guys like Redden and Neal were just the bane of my existence as a sports fan, and like into being a person, not just sports fandom. This was like conversations at school and with other people and with adults about like how much we hated these players. Like sports was an odd time in the early 2000s.
We sort of categorized it as the little brother looking like he may finally have big brother pinned for the first time. And this overtime starts off, the first overtime is not super eventful, which is sort of a weird thing to say about a playoff overtime. There's another Carol Pelash drive. Carol Pelash, man, I did not expect as many Carol Pelash highlights as I got in this game.
Nor did I, to the point where when I started watching this game and they were all sort of filing onto the ice, I just saw his jersey and I had to go, oh yeah, Carol Pelash. I couldn't have told you what years he was on the team before watching this.
He had a primary assist on Travis Green's opening goal, and he played 44 minutes in this game, if you can believe that.
Huh. Good for him.
It's a lot of Carol Pelash. There's a pile up in front of Cujo, as there often is. He was sort of scrambling around making saves. My big note in bold letters from the first overtime is Gary Roberts is too cool. We went into this in the last episode, but man, he is the straw stirring the drink on everything this team does well.
I think because of his style of play too, sort of being that big hulking sort of goal scorer rather than the quick speed guy. His ability to just sort of hold the puck and not be moved off of it for quite some time and allow the play to develop was, obviously it's not how I watched hockey back then. So like it wasn't anything I think it was more just like he scored, so he was great. But rewatching it, really surprising just how strong and useful, I guess, for lack of a better word, he was in this game and as a player for this team.
He's also got 2 black eyes, by the way.
Again, truculence.
Underrated thing that sort of jumped out to me that I sort of hadn't thought about. But when they showed Tucker with the 2 black eyes and they showed Domi with a cut on his face, no visors for a bunch of these guys.
Oh yeah, because this was the debate. This was like the peak visors are bad era. Because especially like with some of these guys being vets who are like sort of on their way out, or like at least in the back half of their careers, like they weren't going to put visors on, which you're right, seems insane.
Yeah. So first overtime, I don't think there's a lot to really dig into there. The second overtime is bananas. Like, it's ridiculous. Right away, 30 seconds in, Lalime, an unreal stop. Robert Reichel with the chance, but Lalime, he was pretty good in this game.
He was. Yeah, I think, as we've said, you can pin a lot of the sort of Senators' failures to top the Leafs on Lalime. Not this one. He was... No. He wasn't as, the saves aren't quite as, I guess, highlight reel as what Cujo was doing on the other end, but I also feel like that wasn't really his game. So
around the middle of this period, the 10-minute mark of this period, there's about 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 6 different events that all happen in the span of like a minute and a half. That is just pure bananas. Cujo is down and out, like absolutely beat. Then the puck trickles just wide. And then somewhere in that play, there's a big tangle up and the net gets knocked off and they get saved. It feels like the Maple Leafs got saved on that one as well. Daniel Alfredsson, like, one times the puck off the boards and it gets in the skates of the defenseman and in Cujo's skates and somehow gets by. Bob Wren, again, in his one playoff game of his 6 career NHL games in the 9 minutes he played, has a brutal pass in what could be a cross-ice one-timer to win the game. And then Darcy Tucker hits the post.
Reichel waits for it. He's covered now, but he bats it loose when it did come off the boards, and Tucker rolls over. Tucker leaves it for Mogilny. Mogilny centers. Tucker hit the goalpost. Tucker hit the post. They're still in there around the net. Centering pass. Here's a chance. Helash nailed it, and he was stopped. Kaberle, Leafs turning it on here. Tucker shot off the goalpost. Tucker again. It's batted away down the ice. It'll be icing, but the crowd is buzzing on that last flurry.
Brutal. Heartbreaking. He cycles it to Mogilny. Mogilny finds him in the slot. He beats Lalime, but the post saves Ottawa.
I had the weird thing of rewatching this game with the knowledge that this game goes 3 overtimes and seeing that Tucker shot and being like, what? And then it hits the post. Like, you can't believe he missed that shot. Even the crowd thought it was over. I think he thought it was over. It's just one of those like playoff hockey things where he hits the post there and like, oh, the Leafs are done. Like, that was it.
Yeah, totally. That's 9 minutes left in the second overtime when that happens. My last note for double overtime is something you mentioned in the previous episode, was the Maple Leafs get a power play and Kaberle is dancing on the blue line as he was wont to do. And Bob Cole does the Kaberle doesn't like to shoot from back there. And he really is like going out of his way to not shoot on this play. It's crazy.
I'm trying to figure out the strategy. Is it just like you don't want to give up the rush the other way, I guess? Like, it just seems, I know it's
he's
like
a very good passer for one thing.
Yeah, he was. And he had McCabe beside him his whole career, whose whole thing was taking a Kaberle pass and just shooting it as hard as he possibly could. Later
in that shift, Kaberle sneaks down and crushes a slap shot and fires it wide. That was, I think the setup was 2-pronged of like him being a better passer, and when he finally does shoot, it's going to catch you off guard. Because he crushes that one-timer. But well wide. The thing that the Tucker post sort of does maybe my eyes are just sort of seeing this because I sort of know what happens in the third overtime, but I feel like the Leafs sort of have a plan to use the rest of the overtime period to prove that they weren't tired. I think that is what I like, because they start really laying the body. Tucker hammers Redden. You get more of Roberts doing what he does well, really digging in. He had 19 points in 19 games, by the way, in the playoffs that year.
Wow. I wonder
and 56 penalty minutes.
I wonder if there's something to that. Like, obviously we have you and I have established many times that we don't know shit about how to like actually strategize or play hockey. But I wonder if there is something in like a back half of a second overtime of just like knocking guys around and making them have to get back up and keep going after you're just like sort of, you've been on the ice for however many minutes. And I don't know if I might just be talking about nothing and that might not be a thing, but I wonder if that was more of a on purpose strategy than just the Leafs being tough, gritty guys.
You know, I think part of it is sort of how that Leafs team played. You sort of talked about it in the previous episode, was they were a heavy, slow team. And I think at this point of the game, it was, we need to get back to leaning on that, because if they're tired and we can wear them out physically, we will get that chance to present itself. Maybe.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
That's how Patty Quinn coached him up. That's the matter of fact. The period ends with a penalty for Sean McEachern, who has the biggest visor I've ever seen in my life. It's like a PPE like support shield.
At that point, just wear the cage, man.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
Put the cage on. That's
the power play that Kaberle eventually shoots on, and that we both pulled that Bob quote both pulled the Bob Cole quote from. Anyway, we move ahead to the third overtime period, and man, just bananas. Like, I can't even say. The Sens kill that penalty, and then like Marian Hossa should have ended this game twice in the span of about a minute. He gets a clean breakaway, tries to go 5-hole, denied by Cujo. A 2-on-1 goes back the other way. Roberts and Hoagland, and Roberts like tries to break the sound barrier with how hard he shoots this. He fires it wide, and it basically goes all the way to the other end of the ice again. And Hossa on a breakaway again tries to go 5-hole. Cujo stacks the pads.
Aired up on the boards to the corner. Crawley doesn't move it out. Leafs do get it up to Roberts. A 2-on-1. Hoagland is with Roberts. Roberts! He missed the net with that hard high shot. Now here's Hossa again. All along. Stopped by Joseph. What a save by Curtis Joseph. Can you believe this? In the third overtime. 2-on-1 Toronto. Shot wide of the net. Twice. Ottawa was in on Joseph. Twice. Stymied.
Yeah, not the most elegant of saves. I was talking about this earlier. Not the most elegant of saves from Cujo, but I guess it did the job. And after in a third overtime, I guess that's really all you're looking for.
He throws himself at the puck. That's what he does.
Yeah. And I mean, hey, it worked. He had a great career. So fair enough. Who am I to say? But did you have this sort of thought watching this? Like, obviously we did watch this game and like we were alive for it. We remember it. We lived through it. But like, as a 30-ish-year-old person who has experienced many playoff hockey or otherwise moments in bars with large groups of people now, did you, I kept thinking about like what a triple overtime game like this would be like to watch in like a similar crowd to what we watched the Raptors in last year. And like the only thing I can remember the double overtime game against Washington a few years ago, but like even that one ended pretty early in the second overtime. Like, I just feel like it would be, I feel like this is the kind of thing that's really fun when you're a kid. And I feel like now would be sort of a nightmare.
You're in this bar for 6 hours, right? It's your whole night.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. And like, this is a 7 p.m. start. This game probably ended at like 1 a.m.
Yeah, I'm sure it was close. Things get a little sloppier. I have a note here that teams are just sort of starting to throw stuff at the net. There's a lot of bodies sort of on the ice a lot of the time. You can tell a little bit that the stamina is wearing down and the exhaustion is starting to wear on.
Yeah, I think, I mean, obviously it's natural, but there does seem to be a lot of just like, maybe if I throw this at a weird angle,
yes,
it'll go in.
Which we've seen a fair share of overtime goals happen that very way. But that's also sort of a recipe for the game being never ending, is nobody gets a really good shot and
yeah.
things go wide and things don't really end up happening. But something does happen. Chris Neal and Shane Corson get all tied up. First, Bob Cole thinks somebody's hurt. He looks over and he's like, there's a Senator on the ice. It looks like Neal's down. And then they change the camera angle and he's on top of Shane Corson.
See, that's the kind of entertainment you just don't get from hockey announcers these days.
Yeah.
Look at me advocating for old time hockey, except not really, but kinda, maybe.
Once Cole figures out that it's going to be 4-on-4 hockey, he speaks it into existence. This is classic veteran guy who's been in sports media forever and believes he can call goals before they happen. He goes for it. He says,
this is Bob Cole just wanting to go home.
Yeah.
This is him being like, I don't want to do this anymore.
I do this all the time when I need games to end, is you say, this is the shift, this is the play, and then eventually it happens. He says 4-on-4 hockey, this is going to be it. And then Alex Mogilny coming down the right wing, a little half clap, a beautiful shot. Lalime grabs it. A lot of, maybe this is just how Mogilny shot, but I feel like Lalime made a lot of low glove size saves. You notice that?
A lot of shots in this game, like right off the draw.
Yes.
I noticed as well. That ended up as glove shot. Was that a heavier strategy back then that I don't remember?
Could be.
There's like 3 or 4 in this game where it's just like a quick shot, like win the draw, back the guy behind you, quick wrist shot. And it happens quite a few times this game. I found it kind of, and you're right, they all are, for the most part, low glove saves.
Lalime gets it and freezes it. Although he loved to throw the puck out with his glove as well. He did that a lot of times in this game. There's a lot of goalies moving the puck in this game. But anyway, we get a draw. Robert Reichel wins the draw. And who else?
Face off. One by Toronto. Toronto score! Roberts ends the game. And the Leafs have tied the series. One apiece. 4 minutes and 30 seconds into the third overtime. The face-off in the zone. Gary Roberts with the chance. His first shot on goal in the game. And his biggest shot of the night. Leafs win it 3-2. And the series is tied at one apiece. Wow, what a night in Toronto.
Gary Roberts finds the back of the net. It's 5-hole face. You ever notice whenever a goalie gets scored on 5-hole, he immediately throws the head back? This is classic 5-hole face from Patrick Lalime. Maple Leafs win. The good guys prevail. It is 4:30 into the third overtime. Maple Leafs win 3-2. What was your reaction in the moment when you were a kid?
Oh, I can't remember if my parents were still awake at this point. My dad might have been. I have a memory of watching this in the basement of our house, and I have a memory of like running up and down the stairs. But I could be conflating it with another game, but I feel like that was my like, it was because like this goal too is like kind of an odd anticlimactic goal in a lot of ways. It just kind of happens off the draw. It's just a quick shot and it's over. And so I feel like there was that moment of like you're sitting down in a chair and then it's just like it happens and you're up and running and you know what to do with yourself. And then it was also like this is also, remember, like pre-texting, pre-social media, like ICQ might have been around at this point. I feel like it's pre even like MSN Messenger and certainly pre-laptop. So it wasn't like you could share it with anyone when you were a kid. I remember like if you weren't watching the game with a buddy, at the age I was at, it was kind of like you used to just sort of go nuts by yourself and then like try to go to bed.
Yeah. No, there's something
Very, very different.
I hadn't thought of that. There was nowhere maybe you called a friend, but I didn't do that. It's nighttime. You're just running around your house. Yeah, that's funny.
Well, it's one in the morning. I was 13. It's 1 a.m. Like it's not what you can do.
CBC, by the way, kills it with the shots they get.
They do.
They get Wade Redden swearing and doing a snot rocket. Immediately blowing his nose.
Good looking man, though.
Yeah. No, a handsome guy.
I hated him. Handsome man.
Walter Gretzky with the high fives in the crowd. Ken Dryden going nuts with the fist pumping.
I had forgotten Ken Dryden was in charge of this team.
Yeah, me too.
Until rewatching this.
I completely forgot about that. That's a very good point. Until that very shot. I was like, oh yeah, Ken Dryden.
Yeah.
Involved at all.
Yeah.
To moderate success, I guess.
Yeah, I've made a conference final. It's not... I can't remember if he was in charge in 99, but... I mean, hey, it's more success than the guys right now have had, so...
That's true. But that does it. That's... Maple Leafs win. Gary Roberts, the conquering hero, basically saving the Maple Leafs bacon here. If they lose this game, I think that's probably it for the series. Maybe I'm wrong, because they sort of had some magic voodoo over the Senators, but boy, oh boy, it would have been tough to come out of that hole. 2 losses at home in the first 2 games.
I feel like maybe in other years, but like without Sundin, I don't know if they would have really... And like losing triple overtime at home, down 0-2, no Matt Sundin. Yeah, it certainly doesn't feel like they would have pushed it to 7 like they did if they lose this game.
We will look at what happened the rest of the series as we move forward in this series of Sportsfeld Storytime. We do game 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then work our way forward on the very next episode of Sportsfeld Storytime.